Welcome back to Diala Treats. I'm Diana and today I'll show you how to make these tiny baby conchitas that you can put inside hot chocolate bombs. I'm sorry about the audio in the video. My laptop kind of stopped working, so I had to edit this on my iPad. If you find this video helpful in any way, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Making the dough for these conchitas is super easy. You put all the dry ingredients in the bowl of your stand mixer. You add in the butter and you let that come together until it forms a sand-like texture. Then you add the vanilla and the egg, you let that incorporate, and then you start adding the warm milk a little bit at a time to give the flour enough time to absorb that liquid. I will link my blog post in the description box so you can find detailed steps and all the materials and ingredients that you will need to make these. You can knead the dough by hand, but I prefer to use my stand mixer. It's just much easier and it saves time. I recommend making the conchitas ahead of time. They do take about 4 hours, but most of that time is letting the dough rise. The first rise takes about 2 hours, and then once you get the conchitas assembled, it'll take about 1 more hour and a half. Once the dough is ready, it should look like this. It's going to be slightly sticky and elastic. It's much easier to take it out of the bowl if you use a scraper like this one. You can find them on Amazon. I got this one on Amazon a few years ago. Just type in bowl scraper and a lot of them will pop up. Place the dough in a lightly greased bowl. I use a tiny amount of vegetable oil, but you can use any type of oil that you have. Cover it with saran wrap and place it in your oven for it to rise. My oven has a bread proofing option. It's about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I put it in there and I turn the light on, and it helps my dough to rise. It takes about 2 hours. While the dough is rising, I prepare the topping. I use the same bowl that I used to prepare the dough, and I put all of the ingredients in the bowl. And I use a paddle attachment to combine all the ingredients together. It's going to start looking like this, like a sand-like consistency, and almost like it's not going to come together, but it is. And you do have to use the bowl scraper to make sure you get all of it incorporated. At the end, it should look like this. It's a paste-like consistency. If you have never tried the Master Elites by the Sugar Art, you are seriously missing out. You'll see right now when I combine all these colors together how pigmented they are, and a little tiny bit goes a long way. I honestly think I added too much. I think I only needed one of these little spoonfuls, but I'm not kidding when I say you need to try these. I love to use these colors for my concha topping, but also love using them for my macaron batter. They don't affect the batter at all since they're not adding any additional liquid to it, but I get these rich and highly pigmented colors for my macarons. If you follow me on TikTok, you've seen how pigmented my macarons are, and one of the most asked questions on my macaron videos is what type of food coloring I use, and it's these Master Elites. If you are interested in trying these, I have an affiliate code, Diala Treats, and you'll get 15% off your purchase. I'll link the website down in the description box. I like for my conchas to all be the same size and weight, so I weigh out the topping and I weigh out the dough. The topping will weigh 5 grams and the dough will be 10 grams. When I made these though, I only made about 24 mini conchitas, and the rest of the dough I made regular sized ones. The regular sized ones are 60 grams of dough and about 15 to 16 grams of topping. It's going to be up to you how you want to make them, but if you are making them all minis, in total you should weigh out 48 pieces of topping and 48 pieces of dough. I found that the best way to roll these was in between the tips of the fingers. Just roll it that way until it forms a perfect little ball. You can flatten it out a little bit at the top because they do kind of form a dome. So just kind of flatten it out a little bit, and then once you add the topping, you will flatten it out a little bit more. Your fingers will start cramping, but beauty is pain, And once the conchitas are ready, you'll see how worth it was because they are so beautiful. If you're having trouble with your topping, for example, you can't flatten it out this way, you can't really work with it, it gets stuck to your fingers, you do have to chill it after you make it, so put it in the fridge after you make it and bring it out when you're ready to start rolling the dough. This step is also going to cause your fingers to cramp, so if you have a tortilla press, I recommend using it. It'll take you less time to flatten out the topping and your fingers won't hurt. If you don't have bread stamps, you can score the top of the topping with some knives. You can create your own little designs, but I got these cute mini stamps from breadstamps.com. I will link their website in the description box. Once all the conchitas have been scored, it'll take about an hour and a half for the topping to start separating and for them to double in size. Then you will bake them for 15 minutes depending on your oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. You know they're done once the bottom looks golden brown like this. If you only wanted to know how to make the mini conchitas, you can stop the video here, but if you also wanted to know how to make the hot chocolate bombs, keep watching. The easiest way to melt the chocolate is in the microwave. I start with 30 seconds, then move down to 20 and then 10. The glass, well, if you use glass to melt the chocolate, will be very hot and that helps in melting the chocolate. So you don't really need a lot of time because if you heat it too much, you can burn the chocolate and then you'll have to start all over again. This is the consistency I like for my chocolate, not too hot but also not too cold so that it coats the molds correctly. I put a spoonful of the chocolate into one of the cavities. I go around the cavity with the back of the spoon to make sure I get all of the sides and all the way to the top. Once I've done this for all of the cavities in the mold, I will put it in the fridge for about 2 to 3 minutes so that the chocolate can harden. Then I will add a second coat of chocolate, but the second coat I don't use a spoonful. I simply grab some chocolate on the back of the spoon and I coat the edges, make sure to get the edges all the way to the top so that when you take out the chocolate from the mold, it doesn't break. Once I've added the second coat, I will put the mold back in the fridge for another 2 to 3 minutes. Then once I'm sure that the chocolate has hardened, I start taking them out of the mold. What I do to avoid breaking them is to pull the mold away from the sides and then use that same hand to push from under and then just flip it out. When you take the chocolate out of the mold, they have some rough edges at the top. So what I do is I heat up a plate in the microwave, make sure it's microwave safe, and then I melt down those rough edges and put them on cupcake liner so that it's easier to fill them. You can use any flavor cocoa powder you like. I like to use the abuelita one. I like that cinnamon taste that it has to it. I use 2 heaping teaspoons of cocoa powder and then I add in the mini marshmallows and the mini conchita. When I first made these, I put the mini conchitas right side up, so when the chocolate bomb opened up in the milk, the conchita was upside down. You couldn't see the color. So what I did is instead of it being right side up, I placed them upside down like you see here, so that when the bomb opened up in the milk, the conchita would come out and you would see the color and the pattern. To seal the chocolate bombs, I use a plate again that's been heated in the microwave. I melt down the edges of the other half of chocolate and place it on top of the other one. It's okay if it's not perfect. You can use some chocolate later to seal any gaps. Then I put some melted chocolate in a piping bag and drizzle some of it on top and immediately place some sprinkles on it so that the sprinkles can stick to that chocolate. Now it's time to enjoy a hot chocolate bomb and a cup of very hot milk. You'll see how the chocolate bomb opens up and that little conchita comes right out. Don't let the conchita sit in there for too long though, because it is going to start dissolving. I hope you like this video and I hope you try out this recipe.